Greetings comrades, my name is Gigantzels and welcome to another Church Council in a Nutshell video. So today we'll be talking about the Third Council of Constantinople. This council took place between 680 to 81 AD, though it should be obvious everything's in AD by now. The Pope at the time was Pope St. Agathor, who was Pope between 678 to 681. The Emperor at the time was Emperor Constantine IV, who was Emperor between 668 to 685. And the President at the time was Patriarch George I of Constantinople, who was Patriarch between 679 to 686. As usual, attendance is a bit vague and debated. Some say there were 300 or so there, although attendance at some sessions of this council was as low as 151. Now, there's quite the background to this council, which centers around a number of heresies accidentally spawned by politics. You see, when Emperor Heraclius went to war with the Persians to reclaim conquered provinces, he found quickly that there wouldn't be true unity with those Christians in those reconquered provinces because they were monophysitists. Monophysitism, as I mentioned before, is the heresy in which Christ only had one nature. So he was either human or divine, instead of him being diophysistic, which is human and divine, two natures. So Heraclius took on a moderate position between diophysism and monophysitism, and he released a couple of documents to try and promote unity and a bridge with the monophysitists. However, these documents spawned two heresies, monoenergism and monothelitism, which I will explain in a minute. The Byzantine Empire and region of the world did accept this new position, however, Jerusalem and Rome condemned it. And unfortunately, Heraclius' efforts were in vain when the Persians reconquered those provinces. When the emperor's grandson, Constans II, took the throne, he realized very quickly that this would create internal problems within the empire, as there would be people arguing about monothelitism, and monoenergism, and diophysitism. So he banned discussion of all 3 points, or rather of both sides. So you couldn't speak for or against any of them. Despite this, Pope St. Martin I and the monk St. Maximus the Confessor, or St. Maximus of Constantinople, convened a synod in Rome in around 649 that condemned both monoenergism and monothelitism. However, in Constantinople in around 653, some accused the Pope and St. Maximus of treason. So Pope St. Martin would be arrested, put on trial, and he would be exiled, where he remained up to his death. And St. Maximus was also sent to trial, but then he was tortured to death when he was burned and his skin ripped apart. However, after Emperor Constans II's son, Emperor Constantine IV, finally overcame the Muslim siege of Constantinople in 678, he tried to repair communion with Rome and wrote a letter to the Pope to try and establish a council to sort out this problem once and for all. He wrote a letter to Pope Donus, who unfortunately died before he could read it, and so instead Pope St. Agathor received the letter, read it, and agreed to this. So 3 synods were held in Western Europe. Delegates from these 3 councils then went to Constantinople, where the Ecumenical Council would be called. So before I go through the discussion of this council, I'm going to explain what the 2 heresies are. So monoenergism basically says that although Christ has 2 natures, he only had one energy. So 2 separate human and divine natures in hypostatic union, but he only had one energy, which was a mix of both. Monothelitism says that Christ only has one will, so there was no opposition between his human and divine volitions. At the beginning of the council, a letter from Pope St. Agathor was read out, which confirmed the Church's beliefs that Christ had 2 wills. He had a human and divine will. And most of the bishops present accepted this letter. Now, at some point during the council, I'm not sure how he even got in there, maybe a bishop brought him in, but a monotheletist priest came forward and claimed as a test of faith that if he could bring a man back from the dead, then his position would be correct. So either they dragged a body in at some point in this council, or maybe they went to a nearby cemetery where someone was being buried, and the monotheletist priest attempted to bring someone back from the dead by whispering to their ear. Not entirely sure what he said, but probably something along the lines of, "Please wake up," or "Please come back from the dead." However, this test of faith failed. This council, following the words of Pope St. Agathor's letter, would then define Christ as possessing 2 energies and 2 wills. But the human will was in subjection to his divine and all-powerful will. There was some caution about mentioning Saint Maximus the Confessor because people weren't too entirely sure whether he was a heretic or not. He would later be confirmed as not a heretic, but just at this point in time there was some caution. His name would be cleared later. As the final part of this council, letters were written that basically condemned monothelitism and mono-energism. It also condemned all the clergy who had believed in this heresy, including Pope Honorius I and 4 previous patriarchs of Constantinople. And although Pope St. Agathor died before he could receive the letter from this council, his successor, Pope St. Leo II, accepted it on his behalf. So for the results of this council, other than the fact that monophysitism still gained no standing in the church, monoenergism and monothelitism had both been condemned as heresies. Pope Honorius I, I hope I'm pronouncing the name correctly, and other clergymen, whether they were alive or dead, who supported these heresies, were condemned as heretics, and if they were alive, they were removed from office, including Macarius of Antioch, who at this point in time wasn't in Antioch due to Muslim invasions, similar to how the patriarchs of Alexandria and Jerusalem also weren't in their patriarchates due to Muslim invasions. St. Maximus the Confessor would later on be cleared of all suspicions against him and proclaimed both a confessor and a saint, and the council defined the understanding of Jesus better as Jesus possessing 2 wills and 2 energies, but his human will was in subjection to his divine and all-powerful will. And that's it pretty much for the Third Council of Constantinople. It wasn't that long. Even though it lasted a year, there wasn't much that came out of it, just a rejection of these heresies. So if you liked the video, please do give it a like, please do share my videos, and please do comment on what you think of them, and any other videos you want me to do. Please do subscribe to my channel so you can see more of this content. Please do ring the bell so you can keep up to date with my Church Council in a Nutshell series. Next episode will be the Second Council of Nicaea. And this council was an extremely important one because it dealt with iconoclasm, which many fundamentalists and a lot of Protestants nowadays seem to have definitely, well, considering this council took place almost 1,200, 1,300 years ago, they're definitely behind. I'll say that. But that will be for that video. So anyway, God bless you all. See you in the next video, comrades. Until then.